"Glad to know you, Myron," she said, and couldn't help but ask if he was new at life. He told Miss Lombard he had been on the job a few months. "Just call me Carole," she said with a wave. After the usual speeches, Indiana Governor Henry F. Schricker introduced Lombard to a swelling crowd as the little Hoosier girl who made good in Hollywood. Lombard climbed risers carefully to raise the flag in bitter January winds. And it wasn't just any flag. This version of the Stars and Stripes had been flying over the United States Capitol building when President Roosevelt formally declared war on Japan 38 days earlier, on December 8, 1941. Assisting Lombard and posing for photos were Indianapolis Star publisher Eugene C. Pulliam and Will Hays, czar of the Hays office that oversaw the censorship of Hollywood pictures. Hays was an Indiana native like Carole, and how many times had he seen and grumbled over rough cuts of Lombard pictures in which her braless breasts jiggled before the camera with hard nipples ablazing. And now here they were, Hays and Lombard, united by the war effort. Newsreel cameras turned in front of her as she called into the microphone, "Let's give a rousing cheer that will be heard in Berlin and Tokyo." After a demonstration of incendiary bombs, the dignitaries and throng of onlookers moved inside, under the stained glass dome of the State House Central Rotunda, for an hour of bond selling. Since it was the nation's first event, and there was no telling how a nervous public would respond, the goal had been set at a conservative $500,000 in sales of war bonds and stamps. But the line of people eager to interact with Carole Lombard Gable had formed in the cold for more than 7 hours, and hopes suddenly ran high. Life magazine would later describe the event inside the State House as jammed and hectic, with Lombard desperately handing out slips of paper to a delirious throng as Myron Davis snapped photos. Each slip was a receipt that bore her picture, her personal printed thank you, and the stamped signature Carole Lombard Gable. After an hour, she was led out of the State House with action still brisk and taken back to the Claypool for another flag-raising ceremony in the wintry air to open new recruiting stations for the 3 branches of service. A wardrobe change in her suite followed. Then Carole, Petey, and Otto were driven to the governor's mansion for a formal tea and reception. And then on to New Jersey and Ohio streets, site of the Cadle Tabernacle, temple of popular evangelical radio personality Howard Cadle. The cavernous venue held 10,000 and was jammed past its limits for Lombard's 7 p.m. appearance. She told the crowd in an impromptu speech that the cost of war would be very high, but the peace it will bring is priceless. Eugene Pulliam walked on stage to announce that Lombard had spearheaded sales of bonds that day, not in the amount of $500,000, but in the amount of more than $2 million. The crowd went wild. Lombard stepped discreetly away from the microphone to lead those in attendance in a shaky rendition of the Star-Spangled Banner, a tune that she admitted terrified her. Myron Davis captured the moment of a straight-backed Lombard and 12,000 Hoosiers singing the national anthem together. She was led off stage, and the VIPs endured one last mingling session. Prior to the Cadle Tabernacle event, Lombard had no intention to fly home. The plan remained to board the train the following morning, but someone she met at the tea or the tabernacle offered to find her a ride aboard an airliner, perhaps military officials in attendance who greased the skids and granted her priority status for a plane trip west. Finally, the party of 3 stepped into a waiting car and retired to the Claypool for one final photo op with reporters. When all the press had gone, at about 10 p.m., Carole turned to Wink and said something he simply couldn't believe. "We're flying home." Elizabeth Peters had made it her business never to step onto an airplane in her life. The idea terrified Tots, and her daughter knew it. But Carole saw only one goal now, to get home as fast as possible. Ever ever since the exploding windshield. Ever since the bullet in the eye. Carole Lombard had been a live-for-now kind of a gal, and she'd be goddamned if she would crawl back to Encino on a train when pretty silver planes crisscrossed the skies overhead, planes that would carry the three of them home in 17 hours instead of 72. Wasn't that what the ads said? Coast to coast in 17 hours? What good was $500,000 a year in income if you couldn't actually use it when needed? And brother, did she need it now. Wink dug in his heels. Way back before leaving Los Angeles, Carole had looked him in the eye and promised she would take the train. And she knew why she must. Commercial passenger air service was 10 years old and risky enough, and the danger existed of sabotage by enemies that may have infiltrated the United States and been drawn to the nation's first Bond rally. In addition, whistle stops had been planned for the return trip, and these were important opportunities to help the war effort. But Carole wasn't in listening mode. She meant business, and Otto knew if he crossed swords with the fireball now, he wouldn't win, any more than he had won a couple of weeks earlier. Wink was too bone-weary for a confrontation. He didn't like to argue anyway. He had made his living at MGM, accommodating the stars, not making trouble for them, and Wink wasn't exactly alone as he sat in their suite at the clay pool at 11 at night. Petey sat there in horror as well, and could only look on as Otto dragged himself off to make inquiries with the Indianapolis airport about flights west. Lombard paced her Claypool Hotel suite 12, 50, 100 times, a Coke in one hand and a cigarette in the other, before Otto came back looking gloomy, with pencil scribbles on the back of an envelope. The information she had supplied to Wink, courtesy of the military brass at Cadle Tabernacle, had led to 3-seat reservations on TWA trip number 3, a sky club out of LaGuardia by way of Columbus that would be stopping in Indianapolis in a few hours at about 3 a.m., and then flying on to St. Louis and points west, getting into Burbank at 7 p.m. Friday evening local time. Carole hopped in glee and smiled a genuine $1,000,000 smile. Burbank yet. Pa could motor over Ventura Boulevard, pick them up, and everybody could be sleeping in their own beds by 9 or 10 Friday night. Carole reminded Otto that he could see Jill 2 days sooner, and Petey sat there hurt, terribly hurt by her daughter's betrayal, but much more, frightened at seemingly innocent words Otto had said. Trip number 3, arriving at 3 in the morning. Petey happened to be a student of numerology and knew 3 to be a hard luck number. Theirs was a party of 3. Carole was 33 years old. Oh my God, 33 years and 3 months. This was bad, bad, bad. Totsie, Carole began. What was Petey to do? She had nothing but pure love for this girl, joy in watching her and listening to her and marveling that this is my child. The pure acceptance of the dynamo her kid had become and the pride of what she would accomplish next. Yes, pride in Jane Peters turned Carole Lombard, a thoroughly modern woman making her way in a man's world with both fists clenched and ready to fight. And it was this same hard-charging attitude that Petey faced now, this monster she had created. Carole didn't know about Otto's premonition, or about Petey's dread about 3s, but there was no missing their devastated faces. She tried to lighten a deadly moment. She offered to flip for it with Otto. She must have felt the weight of the offer, flipping for something this important when both these people sincerely wished to get home slowly and steadily, and when calling it wrong meant the torture of that deadly train. While Paul was back there with her. Carole told Otto to call it in the air. If he called it right, they'd go his way. If he called it wrong, they would fly. Otto considered his options, and he had none. He could get on the phone with the feds, or with his boss of bosses, MGM VP Eddie Mannix, or with Gable, and in all cases he would be turning stool pigeon on Carole, and he knew he couldn't do that. Clark and Carole were family, and if he betrayed her now, she wouldn't forgive him for the rest of their lives.